this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make the Jasmine cardigan. This pattern is available to make in 9 different sizes from extra small to 5X. The pattern is available for free on my blog and is also available as an ad-free PDF. I'll leave links in the description box below. For this pattern, I have used We Crochet Comfy Fingering weight yarn. This is a cotton and acrylic mix. It's 75% cotton and 25% acrylic. It's a beautiful yarn. I've used the shade Flamingo, but it comes in some really lovely shades too. I am using a 4mm crochet hook, but that might change for you depending on your gauge, which I will go through in this video. You'll need a pair of scissors and a darning needle for sewing in your ends and also seaming your panels together. Stitch markers and binding clips will come in really handy. I really like these binding clips for when I'm putting my pieces together and holding them in place when it comes to seaming. You will also need a tape measure for measuring your gauge and the panels of your cardigan. The only other things that you will need is a blocking mat. So I like to use big play mats, which I got from Amazon. I'll leave links in the description. And then also you will need some blocking pins. I like these packs that you can get because they have blocking combs in, and then they also have pins, and these are all rust free as well. To actually block your work itself, you're going to want to use a handheld steamer, or you can also use an iron as well, but I recommend steam blocking your work. As I say, I will leave everything in the description box below so that you can go and take a look at that and grab everything that you need. Before we get started on the tutorial, I am going to talk a little bit about the construction of the cardigan itself. So this pattern is constructed using 5 different panels. We have the back panel, we have 2 front panels, and then we have 2 panels for the sleeve, which are going to be smaller, longer sections, and then they are all seamed together. Now I'm going to demonstrate the main stitch pattern for this project, and this will apply to all of your panels. So I'll show you how to do your gauge swatch, and then you can measure your gauge and then make all of your panels from there. The only thing that is going to be different is if you are making the medium version or the 3X version, we are going to do something slightly different for the front panels, and that's the version that I've done here. This is a medium. So if you make the medium or the 3X, then make sure that you follow that next section where I'm going to show you how to do the half shells for your front panels. So as I say, we're going to start with the gauge swatch. So grab your yarn and the 4mm hook and let's get started. So we're going to begin by creating a slip knot, and you can do this in whichever method you prefer. Go ahead and insert your crochet hook, and for our gauge swatch we're going to chain 38. So it's yarn over, pull through, that's 1, yarn over, pull through, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead, pause the video, chain 38, and then meet me back once you're ready. So we've now chained 38 and we're going to work our main stitch pattern. Now the good news is if you are making the size extra small, you can actually continue with this swatch to make one of your front panels. Unfortunately it doesn't apply to any of the others, but if you're making the extra small you can use this for part of your front panel. So for this pattern we are going to be working into the back bumps of this chain. So as you turn it round, you can see the back bumps here. That's where we're going to be working into. We're going to start off by doing a double crochet, which is a US single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So not the one that's on the hook. We have 1 and 2. If we turn that round, we can go into that second chain, into the back bump, yarn over, pull through. You'll have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. We're then going to start a pattern repeat. We're going to begin by skipping 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do a treble crochet, chain 2, treble crochet into the next 2 chains. In the US that's known as a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, but we're going to do it into these 2 stitches. So we'll skip those 3 chains and then yarn over into that next chain, into the back bump, yarn over, pull through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's 1 treble US double, chain 2, and then work another treble US double into that same chain. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So we've done that set just there, and then we're going to do that again into the next chain. So treble US double into the next chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2, chain 2, and then a treble US double crochet again into that same chain. We're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then work a double crochet US single crochet into that next chain. So what we've created here, minus this first one, is a shell, or the beginning of the shell. And we're going to repeat from that first section again, all the way across. So I'll show you that again. We're going to skip 3 chains, and then into the next chain, we're going to work a treble crochet, US double crochet, chain 2, and a treble crochet into that same chain, US double crochet. And then into the next chain, treble, chain 2, treble, which is double, chain 2, double in US. So treble, US double, chain 2, and treble, US double. Skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet, US single crochet into that next chain. And you're going to repeat that pattern, repeat all the way across. So it's skip 3 chains, treble, chain 2, treble into the next chain, treble, chain 2, treble into the next chain, skip 3 chains, and then double crochet into that next stitch. I'll leave it on the screen so that you can see and also see the US terms. Work your way across until your last stitch finishes in the last chain, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now worked my way all the way across. This is what row 1 is looking like. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to row 2. So we're going to chain 1 and turn the work. So the chain 1 does not count as a stitch here or throughout the pattern. We're going to work a double crochet, US single crochet into this very first stitch just here. So we'll work a double crochet, US single, and then we are starting our pattern repeat again. So we're going to work 4 trebles, US double crochets into this first chain space. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to, and it says 4 trebles into the next chain 2 space twice. So this is first, and then we find that next chain 2 space and we do that again. So 4 trebles, US doubles into that chain 2 space. And 4. Then we're going to find the double crochet, which is the US single crochet just after this, so just here, and then we're going to work a double crochet, US single crochet into that stitch, like so. And that is the pattern repeat. So it's 4 trebles into the next chain 2 space twice, so here and here. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then into that next chain 2 space, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then find that double crochet. So it's just here, it will look a little bit elongated because it's from the chain. Go into there and work a double crochet, US single crochet. So you're going to work that all the way across. Your last double crochet US single will be in this last stitch just here. So pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've finished my row 2. This is what it's looking like. We have this lovely scalloped edge. We're now going to move on to row 3. So for the row 3, we're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to turn my work. This chain 6 will count as a treble, US double crochet and a chain 3. So imagine it going across like this. We're then going to skip the next 3 trebles. So we have 1, 2 and 3, and then we're going to be working into that 4th treble. We're going to do a double crochet, US single crochet into those next 2 stitches. So as you look at this scalloped edge, we have our 8 stitches. We're actually looking for those 2 central stitches which sit either side of these trebles here. So we'll skip those 3 trebles and then work a double crochet, US single crochet into the next 2 stitches. That's 1 and then 2. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to skip 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do a treble crochet, US double crochet into this double crochet just here, which is a US single crochet. So we'll work a treble, US double crochet into there, skip the next 3 stitches and then double crochet and double crochet, US single crochet. So this is where our pattern repeat starts. So it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, treble crochet, US double into this double crochet here, which is US single crochet, chain 3, skip 3 stitches and then double crochet, US single crochet and double crochet, US single crochet. So you're going to work your way across until you have 4 stitches remaining. I'm nearly there, so I might as well just do it just here. So 1, 2, 3, treble into that double crochet, US double into the single crochet, chain 3, and then work 2 double crochets, US single crochets into those middle 2 trebles. So now you have those 4 stitches left. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then treble crochet, US double crochet into this last stitch. Now that matches the other side because that chain 6 that we did counted as a treble and a chain 3. So this is what the end of your row 3 is looking like. So we're going to go ahead and move on to row 4, chain 1 and turn our work. And then we're going to start off with a double crochet into the first stitch. You might recognize this row, we've already done it, but we're working into stitches rather than the chain. So this is the start of our row, double crochet, US single crochet into there, and now our pattern repeat is going to start. So we're going to do a treble, chain 2, treble, which is a US double, chain 2, double, into this first stitch just here. So this is the first double crochet, US single crochet. So skipping that chain, we'll do a treble, US double crochet, chain 2, and a treble, US double crochet into that same stitch. Oops. And then the same into that next stitch. So treble, US double, chain 2, and treble, US double. We're then going to we'll skip this chain 3 and we'll find this treble just here, US double crochet, and we'll work a double crochet, US single crochet into the top of that stitch. And then you start your pattern repeat again. So you'll do treble, chain 2, treble, which is double, chain 2, double in US terms, in these next 2 stitches, and then a double crochet, US single crochet into this treble just here. So you'll work that all the way across. Meet me back once you're doing your last double crochet, US single crochet, and I'll show you where to place that stitch. So I've now worked my way across and I'm going to do my last double crochet, US single crochet, and where I'm going to place this is in the 3rd chain from the bottom of this chain 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, it's going to go into there, double crochet, US single crochet to finish off that row. So that is row 4. So now for this swatch you're going to do 17 rows in total. We have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. We're going to repeat row 2 to 4 So it's this row here, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, until you get to 17 rows. So go ahead, pause the video, rewind if you need to, repeat rows 2 to 4 until you get to 17 rows, and then meet me back once you're ready. So here is my swatch finished. As you can see, I've finished on this row here, which is row 4. Now when you come to do your panels, you're actually going to add another row 2 onto this, which creates your scalloped edge, but this is what all your panels will finish like, and then you have that additional row at the end, which is pretty easy to add. So now what I'm going to do here is, obviously if you're using this for the extra small size, you can just carry on, but I'm going to snip that off so that I can show you how I'm going to treat this now, because we are going to measure gauge, but we do want to measure gauge after a little bit of light blocking. So let me just grab my blocking mat. So I have my blocking mat here, and then I'm going to take my blocking pins or the combs, and with this pattern we are going to pull outwards, but not too much. So we don't want to overly stretch outwards this way, but we are going to stretch a little bit downwards, so it opens up this stitch pattern. So if I just go ahead and do this like so, and then I'm just going to pop one here and one here. You can see that it really just brings that stitch pattern to life. So now that you have this in place, we're going to count our stitches. So I'm going to place this onto a row 2, which is where these trebles are, the shell row. And I'm going to place this just here at the start of this stitch, and we can see this ends at the start of this next stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23 stitches. So that is what we want. That's why we don't want to pull this open too much. And then if we do our rows, I'm going to start right at this bottom row just here, and then this ends on the top of this row here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So we've got 10 rows and 23 stitches, which is exactly what we want. Now if you find that you're not getting that right amount of rows, you can just adjust your tension slightly, or when it comes to your final piece you can control that a little bit with your steaming. So now that we know that this is the right gauge, you can steam and then just set into place. So what do you do if you don't hit gauge? If you have too many stitches, so if you have more than 23 stitches in that 4-inch section, then your tension is tighter than mine. So you may want to go up half a hook size or a full hook size. If you don't have enough stitches in that 4-inch space, then your tension is looser than mine. So you may want to go down half a hook size or a full hook size. The height, as I mentioned, can be adjusted somewhat with your steaming and your blocking, because this is a lacy stitch, so it does open out, especially this way. However, if you're finding that you're stretching it way too much, then you want to think about your tension. I would highly recommend that you watch a video of mine which is about the golden loop, which talks about how you can adjust the height of your rows depending on your personal tension. You are now going to make your back panel, your 2 front panels, and then your sleeves. Once you have done all of those, block your work, because then we're going to seam everything together. If you're making the medium or the 3X, so I'm making the medium, then please stick with me, because I'm going to show you how to make your front panels with your half shell. So for the medium and 3X only, we're going to do some panels with half shells. Now I've just chained to 25, but if you're doing the medium, then you're going to chain 52, and if you're doing the 3x, then you're going to chain 70. We're going to start off very similar to what we have before. We're going to work a double crochet, US single crochet in the second chain from the hook, so not the one that's on the hook. We have 1 and then 2, so we're going to work into that second chain from the hook, working into the back bumps with a double crochet, US single crochet. We're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then work that treble, US double, chain 2 and treble, US double, and then the same again into the next chain, so just as we did before. So treble, chain 2 and treble. We're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then work a double crochet, US single crochet into that next stitch. So you're going to work that all the way across until you have 5 chains remaining. So go ahead, pause the video, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I'm obviously just doing a tiny sample here, but yours is going to have a few more shells than mine. But I've gone across and I have my 5 chains remaining. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then work a treble, chain 2, treble, so that's double, chain 2, double in US terms. So just the same as before, 1, chain 2 and 2. And then in this last stitch we're going to work a half treble, so that's half double in US, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. The reason why we're doing a shorter stitch there is just because it helps with the half stitch for it not to become too elongated down the center of the cardigan. So we've done a half treble. We're then going to chain 2, which counts as a half treble here and throughout this section, and then we're going to do 4 trebles in the next chain 2 space. So we find that chain 2 and then we work 4 trebles into there, which is US double crochets, 2, 3 and 4. Find that double crochet, US single crochet, and work a double crochet, US single in there. And then we have the same pattern repeat as before. So it's 4 half trebles into the next 2 chain spaces. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 into the next. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then double crochet, US single crochet into that double crochet, US single crochet from the row before, and you would repeat that pattern repeat all the way across until you work your last double US single crochet into this stitch here. So just as before, it's just that we've done this half shell here. So pause the video, work your way across, and then meet me back for row 3. Okay, so for row 3, we're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Skip those first 3 trebles and work double crochets, US single crochets into those next 2 stitches. And then the pattern repeat is just written slightly different as before because it's going to end in a different place. So the pattern repeat is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip the next 3 stitches and then treble crochet into that next stitch, which is a US double crochet, and then chain 3, skip 3 stitches and then double crochet into the next 2 stitches. You'll repeat that all the way across and you'll finish on those double crochets, and I'll just show you the exact placement when you get to that section. So pause the video, work that pattern repeat and meet me back for your last 2 double crochets. So now I've worked my way across, I have my last 2 stitches to work. So we're going to skip those 3 trebles and then work a double crochet, US single crochet into that fourth treble, and then the last treble is going to go into this one here, which just looks slightly different to the rest. So we have our full shells and then our half shell on the end. We're then going to move on to row 4, so we'll chain 2, turn the work. Remember that chain 2 counts as a half treble, and then into this next stitch we're going to work that treble, chain 2, treble, which is double, chain 2, double in US terms. So treble, chain 2 and treble. Then we find the treble from the previous row and work a UK double crochet, US single crochet into there. Then we'll start our pattern repeat. We'll skip 3 chains, and then into the next stitch we're going to work a treble, chain 2 and treble, or double in US terms, and the same into the next stitch, treble, chain 2 and treble, skip the chain 3 and then work a double crochet, US single crochet into that next stitch. You will repeat that all the way across, but your last stitch placement is going to be slightly different. So go ahead, pause the video and then meet me back when you have that 1 double crochet remaining. So I've worked my way across. The final double crochet is going to go into the 3rd chain of this chain 6. So let's move on to row 5. We're going to chain 1, turn our work and work a double crochet into that 1st stitch. And then we're going to work 4 trebles into the next 2 chain 3 spaces. So 4 trebles US double crochets, 4 trebles US double crochets, 2, 3 and 4, and then double crochet, US single crochet into that next stitch. So for the medium you're going to do that 4 more times, and for the 3x you're going to do that 6 more times. Once you've done that, meet me back and I'll show you how to finish off. So now you've worked your way across, we have the half shell left. We're going to work 4 trebles into that last chain 3 space, and then we're going to work a half treble into that very last stitch of the row. So a half treble, which is a half double in US terms. So now we're going to move on to row 6. We have more repeats because of the half shells. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and then we're going to start off with a double crochet in those first 2 stitches, 1 and 2. That's US single crochet. Then our pattern repeat is going to be to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches and then treble crochet into that next stitch, which is the double crochet from the previous row, chain 3 and skip 3 stitches and double crochet, US single crochet into those next 2 stitches. So you're going to repeat that all the way across. So chain 3, treble into the double, chain 3, 2 doubles, all the way across until you have 4 stitches remaining. Go ahead, pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. So we have our 4 stitches remaining. We're going to chain 3 and then work a treble, which is a US double crochet into that very last stitch. We're then going to chain 1 and turn the work, and we're going to do a double crochet, US single crochet into that first stitch to start our round 7 or row 7, and then we're going to go into our pattern repeat. So we're going to skip the chain 3 and then work the treble, chain 2 and treble, and then in the next stitch treble, chain 2 and treble, skip the chain 3 and then work a double crochet into that next stitch You'll work that all the way across until you get to your final chain 3 space just here. So you'll work your double crochet and then you get to your final chain 3, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now worked my way across, and I'm going to finish by doing a treble, chain 2 treble into that next stitch after skipping the chain 3 space, and then one final stitch, which is going to be a half treble US half double into that very last stitch. And that is the last row of the pattern repeat. So you're going to repeat rows 2 to 7 for the front panels of your medium or your 3X. So of course these are your front panel, so you want to make 2 of these. So go ahead and do that. Don't forget to block all your panels and then meet me back for assembling everything together. So now you should have 5 pieces. You should have 1 back panel, 2 front panels, and then 2 sleeves. So we're going to join the back panel with the front panel first. So I'm going to pop the sleeves to one side, and the bottom of the work is going to be where the shells are. So we're going to have this as the bottom of the work just to give some nice detail. So this top edge becomes the shoulder seam. We do want to have our right sides facing each other though, so really this is reversible, but I'm just paying particular attention to the bottom of the work, and you can see that here the bottom are, or the tops of the stitches technically, you can see them just here, and then if you turn them over the shell just looks slightly different. You can choose which side you want right side facing, but I want to have this side facing, so I'm going to have this one facing outwards. And actually, as I look at these now, I'm just going to flip these panels round so that the this is facing on the inside. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to line up and pop my clips on. So if you've done the medium like me or the 3X, then you are going to have half shells on your front panel. But if you have done any of the other sizes, then you will have full shells all the way across. So because I have a half shell, I'm going to make sure that that half shell is in the center of the work. So it's not lined up against the edge here. It's lined up against the center, because then that will also line up against the back of the work here. So I'm going to place that there, and then I'm going to find the other half shell and line this up here. So I like to use these binding clips because I find them really easy to just pin the work together, making sure that everything's aligned the way that it should be. So that finishes on that half shell just there. Just pop one in the middle. And then I would do the same on the other side. Now, if you just have the full shells, then obviously you're still making sure that they align, but you don't have to pay any attention to where the half shells are sitting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a length of my yarn, or if you have a long enough tail end, you can use that. But we're going to go ahead and sew the shoulder seam. So I'm going to take a length of yarn, which is around 3 and a bit lengths of the shoulder seam. And then I'm going to go ahead and thread up my darning needle. Now I like to work from the outside in, so from this point inwards rather than the other way round. So I'm just going to flip my work round so that I can start on this side. So I'm going to remove that first stitch, and then I'm going to find that corner section, and I'm going to pop a knot in there. And then I'm just going to use whip stitch to go across the top of the work, working through both thicknesses, just going in and out to fasten the shoulder seam. So just taking your time here, not pulling too tightly on the work, going into each stitch and each chain. I'm actually going to work into the chain rather than around the chain. So into the chain. And then you get 2 stitches and then into the chain again. So I'm going to do this all the way across, just whip stitching those together, making sure that they are aligning correctly. So I'll work my way across and I'll meet you back in a moment. So I've now worked my way across. I'm just going to turn it round so that I can see the front. And because I've done a half shell, it actually lines up with that second treble from the shell, because we have the additional one just here. If you are doing the full shell, then you're going to end on that double crochet, which is US single crochet just after the shell. So make sure it's all nice and aligned. I'm going to go ahead and pop a knot or fasten that off. I'm just going to leave my tail end for now because I like to sew all mine in at the end, just to make sure that when I try it on, that everything fits the way I want it to fit and it all sits nicely. And if I've sewn these in already, then it makes it a pain to undo. So I like to leave mine open or there ready for the end, so that, you know, if I need to, it's there. So you want to go ahead and do exactly the same for the other shoulder seam. So now you have your shoulder seams done, they're ready to go. We're going to add the sleeves. So the sleeves, again, we want to look at what's going to be the right side and the wrong side. So this is the right side and this is the wrong side for me. So I'm going to go ahead and open out the work to lay it flat. So I still have the wrong side facing me right now. And then I'm going to make sure that I have the wrong side facing me for this as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay it so that the shoulder seam is in the center of your sleeve. So for me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So I'm counting 4.5 shells, and then this will line up with the center sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and pop a clip in there. And then I'm also going to line this up. You don't want this to stretch out too much, but you also don't want it to be bunched up. If you stretch it too much, it's going to, your work's not going to sit properly. So I'm just going to line that up. Making sure that they're sitting in the right places. So this is falling shy just of the end of this shell. So make sure that's nice and neat. And then what you're going to do is sew up this end. So again, we're going to take around 3 lengths of where we're sewing, 2 and 3. And thread up our darning needle. And I'm going to go ahead and attach the sleeve to the body. So we are working around the base of the sleeve, or technically the top of, the base of the sleeve, and then also the edge of the body. So essentially we're working from the bottom of the stitches as opposed to the row ends, but the same thing applies. We're just going to whip stitch all the way down, just stopping periodically. I mean, you're obviously not going to be able to match up stitch by stitch because we're working into the bottom of the row and also the row ends. But if you just make sure that you are going through both thicknesses, that it's sitting nice and evenly, and then work your way all the way across. So do that, work your way across and then fasten off, and then you also want to do the same for the other sleeve. So I've now added both of my sleeves. I'm going to fold it so that the right side is out. And what you want to do here is just go ahead and pop it on. So place it over your shoulders and just check that you're happy with your sleeve length. So you might want to just pop in some binding clips just on the sides just to get an idea of how it's going to fit. But if you wanted to extend your sleeves, then now is a good time to do it before we actually join. So go ahead and do that, and then meet me back for sewing the side seams. So now we're going to work the side seams. So you want to make sure that the work is folded so that the shoulders are folded like this, and then we have the side seams. So I'm going to place my clips just across this edge, again making sure that the shells are lining up nicely. And I actually left a long tail end here, so I can probably use that for the sleeve. So when I'm cutting a length, I'm only going to anticipate it for this section. So I'm probably going to do, because it's a bit longer and I know that I had quite a bit left before, I'm probably just going to do about 2.5 the length. And the process is exactly the same here as what we were doing before. We're going to go ahead and thread up the darning needle, and then we're going to work up these side seams, working through both thicknesses. So your starting point at the bottom is going to be the very end of the shell. So we made the shell, and then we have the double crochet just here. So this is where the edge of that double crochet, let me just zoom in. The edge of that double crochet is going to be there, and then we find the other side, we find the shell, and then we have the edge of the double crochet. So you're going to go ahead and attach your yarn. And again, you're just going to use the whip stitch and join both of those thicknesses together, the front panel to the back panel, making sure that your shells are aligned and that you're working up nice and neatly. Take your time with it to make sure nothing gets unaligned. Obviously double check that you have your right sides facing each other, that is, so that your wrong sides are out. And then you're just going to work this all the way up to your underarm. If you have enough to go around, then absolutely carry on and work around here, but I'm going to probably going to pick up this tail end as I work around there. So pause the video, work your way up to the underarm, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've worked my way up to the shoulder seam, or the underarm should I say, and I've just fastened off, because now I'm going to pick up this tail end here, wherever it's gone, here, and I'm going to use this to sew up under the arm, so the sleeve. So again, this is just a matter of lining up the right sections and working those together using the whip stitch. So I'm lining up those shells and whip stitching all the way up, working through the stitches and also through the chains. So I'm going to work my way all the way up and then fasten off, and then I'm also going to do exactly the same on the other side. So go ahead, do your side seams, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now you should have sewn everything together, all the pieces are together, and you've sewn up the side seams. You have your cardigan. Now I'm hoping that you've tried it on and you're happy with your fit, because now we're ready to move on to doing the front opening. We're going to keep this really simple. We want to keep it light and floaty, so we're just going to do 3 rounds in total on this neck opening, and they're going to be pretty easy to do. So we are going to be required to work down the row ends, and obviously because I have done the medium and this will apply to the 3X, I have the half shells. So if you have finished on a full shell, it will look slightly different, and I'll just go through that in a moment. So first of all, you want to get your yarn ready. We're going to be using the same size hook, so a 4mm hook. So just get that ready, and then let's have a look at these row ends. So here we can see when I've done the half shells, my row ends are all trebles. So we have treble, 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 treble. So I've essentially got 2 trebles per shell. Now, if you have finished on a full shell, your shell is going to have a treble and 2 doubles. So that's a US double and 2 singles. So per shell, we're going to have 4 stitches. So if you finished on a full shell, you're going to work 2 stitches into the treble, US double, and 1 stitch into each of these double crochets, US single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to be the same all the way up the edge. If you're doing my size or the 3X, you've got those 2 trebles. And again, we're going to be working 4 stitches into that shell. So we have 2 into this treble and 2 into this treble. So although I'm going to demonstrate on my sample, you're always going to have 4 stitches per shell. So I've got my yarn on my hook, and we're going to start off with a standing double crochet, which is a standing single crochet in US terms. So when I'm working into a treble, I like to work into the side of the stitch and then into where the base of the stitch is, just to kind of even out that. Otherwise you end up with 2 stitches kind of clumped together and then more stitches clumped together, and this just evens it out a little bit. So I'm going to find that row end, and I'm going to work a standing double crochet, which is a standing single crochet. So which essentially means we have our slip knot on our hook, we go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through, and there we have our standing double crochet. And then I'm going to work into where the base of that stitch is with another double crochet, US single crochet. And then we find the next row end. So again, I'm going to place 1 in here and then 1 just the other side where the base of the stitch is. So in here, and then in here, and then again in here, and then in here. So we're aiming to get those 4 stitches per shell. So just work your way up evenly. I will just refer back to when you're working into the full shell. You have your double crochet row end just here and a double crochet row end, and then you've got your treble row end. So 4 stitches per shell. But as a rule of thumb, 1 stitch into a double crochet row end and 2 stitches into a treble crochet row end. You'll work all the way up until you get to the neck opening where the shoulder seam is, and then meet me back once you're at that point. So I've worked my way up to the shoulder seam, and then it's time to work across the back of the neck. So across the back of the neck here we have the foundation chain that we originally worked into. So what we want to do here is work 1 stitch into the base of an actual stitch, and then when we get to these chain spaces we want to work 3 into those chain spaces because we missed 3 chains, and then we get to a stitch and then chain 3 space, so working 3 stitches into there, and then we get to 2 stitches, and then a chain 3 space. So the rule of thumb is you work 3 stitches into the chain 3 space, and 1 stitch into the base of each stitch. So you'll do this all the way across until you get to the other side seam. So pause the video, work your way across, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I worked my way across to the side seam, and now I'm going to work back down the other way, and it's going to be exactly the same thing. 2 stitches into a treble space, and then 1 stitch into a treble row end. Sorry, I said space, I meant row end. So 2 stitches into a treble row end, US double, and then 1 stitch into each double row end, which is a US single crochet. So you'll work your way all the way down until you get to your last row end, which for me is just here. So pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. So now you've worked your way to the end, you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn the work. This round is going to be super easy, or row should I say, it's classed as. So this row is going to be super easy. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and you're just going to do 1 double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So go ahead, pause the video, work that 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now we've got to the end of this row, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do the final row, which is going to be exactly the same. We're going to do 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So go ahead, pause the video, work that final row all the way round, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've got to the end, all you need to do is fasten off. And then all you have left is sewing in your ends. So at this point, I know you've already blocked your work, but you may wish to just give it another steam, especially now that you've added the front opening, just to make sure that it's all sitting nice and neatly, particularly towards the bottom of the opening. But I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you give this a go, please make sure that you tag me on social media. I want to see as you're making it. Once you've finished it, I want to see all the progress. So here's my social media here. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Click that bell button so that you are notified of when my new videos go live. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this project, then I think you might also like this one too.